And we are live, baby. If I sound a little weird, it's because I'm sick. Please have mercy on me. But we are back. As you can tell by the title, we are rage baiting today. Just kidding, not actually rage baiting. But we are going to be discussing something. I've got my buddy Zune here. Amazing YouTuber. Go check his channel out if you have not yet. In fact, click off this video right now. Check his channel. I'm just kidding. Don't click off the video, please. But check him out definitely after. Zune, say hi real quick.
What's up, guys? Super happy to be here.
But yeah, we are definitely not rage baiting today. Today we are talking about community sentiment on Monster Hunter Wilds and Monster Hunter as a series. You see, we live in this weird Twilight Zone-esque era of Monster Hunter, where we are rubbing shoulders with people that came in and they're playing other Monster Hunter games that have went through 2 years worth of update cycles and DLC, and they bought it on sale. You know, everyone's having these different experiences with Monster Hunter, and you can see it in the discourse. You can see people that are a little more nonchalant. They knew that Wilds was going to be kind of, let's face it, a little mediocre, at launch. What base game new gen title has not launched mediocre and not been carried by either, oh wow, the game that I played with shitty graphics on my Nintendo DS has all of a sudden brought to life on an actual console. Oh, this looks so good, this looks so cool. Let's face it, a lot of the issues that have been plaguing Monster Hunter Wilds have been present since 2018, launching with small rosters, launching with very, very short-sighted end-game mechanics that not too many people are jazzed about, launching with a little bit of questionable things like a bad story or, some frustrating multiplayer aspects. There's maybe even performance issues. For those that weren't there, Monster Hunter World came out on PS4 and Xbox. It wasn't running perfectly fine. Sometimes it was struggling to hit 30 FPS. In specific areas and specific action scenarios. It wasn't the best performer in the world. And Monster Hunter Rise came out on the Switch. Funny enough, it did perform pretty well considering it was third party on the Switch, but nobody liked playing it on the Switch with the 30 FPS frame drops. You can bet your ass as soon as it was coming to console, your boy had to grab it. There's just so many different things that Monster Hunter Wilds has been catching flack for. Rightfully so, not saying that it doesn't deserve to catch the flack, but we're seeing the same people that are throwing these criticisms towards Monster Hunter Wild. We're seeing them compare and use other games as a gold standard. They're using Monster Hunter World, Iceborne, or Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak, and they're saying, oh, these games were legitimately good. Monster Hunter World being the darling of the franchise, there's so many people that are coming in and they have this mindset that Monster Hunter World was one of the greatest games of all time and this absolute Goliath, and they weren't around for the beginning update cycles of Monster Hunter World. They weren't around for Title Update 1 or 2. You could infinitely flash pod until Title Update 2. There was no AT monsters, there was no Behemoth, there was no Lunastra, there was no Kulftaroth. Monster Hunter World came out and all you did was deco farm or streamstone grind. And that's even if you finished the story, because apparently half of you fucks didn't even complete the story. So I'm not saying that to you guys watching. I know you guys are base chads that have completed every Monster Hunter story that you've played. But yeah, basically we're going to be doing a little bit of reminiscing about the past, but we're also going to be addressing the very, very, very real problem that we all participate in. Capcom does or shortchanges at times. Monster Hunter Wilds has been getting slower updates than the previous two titles. Now, Monster Hunter Wilds just dropped with the Akuma update, and it's effectively kind of like a 15th weapon. And Monster Hunter World or Rise can't even touch that as far as what we as players get access to as far as gearing or changing up the flow of the game. There's been nothing like that. And so maybe they're taking time with doing more interesting, in-depth things like that. But Monster Hunter is not a perfect franchise. It never has been. There's always been flaws, and New Gen is no different. And we're mostly going to be talking about New Gen, once again, because New Gen is where we first began this title update cycle, where we are getting games almost a pseudo live service style updated and new content dropped along the way. And by the time that if you come in 2 years later, the game that you're going to be playing is completely and utterly different than the game that dropped initially. Oh,
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we will be discussing like different points of criticism towards Wilds, and I'm going to be raising a case as to why Monster Hunter, as we've known it for the past 7 years, has been mid. And anyone that is absolutely just stroking that World or Rise ding dong is part of the problem. Because it doesn't matter if you bought the game $30 on sale. It doesn't matter if you bought the DLC and the game together $30 on sale 2 years after the DLC is finished. You have proven that Capcom can keep getting away with it.
You can't keep getting away with it!
You have proven that even if the sales are only 14 million by the time the DLC drops, like Monster Hunter World, and 5 million of the actual DLC itself, you've proven that they can triple their DLC numbers during the next game cycle or during the next game's DLC cycle strictly because of smart sales. And then people are going to haphazardly talk about these games in their finished state as if they are God's gift to Green Earth, or Tokuda's gift to Green Earth, or Ryozo's gift to Green Earth, whenever they were mediocre day one, just like the game you're currently criticizing. And let me tell you, a lot of you fucks are going to be doing this for Wilds too. You just wait until Monster Hunter Paradise actually comes out, and you guys are going to be filleting Wilds whenever they do Return to Wilds campaign. Oh, this game's the greatest game of all time. They brought White Fatalis, and they brought Cool Teros' big sister, Big Titty Teros, and now we get to do everything we want to. The game was finished, the game was great, and now we had to buy this new $70 title. I bought these other games for $30, and they tripled the sales. This game is amazing. They've been releasing mid. And we're going to discuss that today. I know that I just went on a tirade. I hope you guys are hanging in there. I love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. We're about to go hard, and we're about to go steady out here, bro. Isn't that right, Zune?
Damn right.
I know that I was just talking a lot, dude. I appreciate you hanging in there with me.
It's okay. I felt like you needed like a moment to go on like the podium speech.
Dude, I was in the zone.
I know. I needed to like just let it happen.
Oh, shit. Great. Okay. Well, now that I got that out the way, hope you guys are doing great today. Let's get started on topic 1. So, first off, we're going to discuss the issues of varied player experiences. Now, Zune and I were actually talking a little bit off recording about how Monster Hunter is a really cool series in that no two people have the same journey whenever they're playing through it. Whether the weapon that they use, even like if you're playing different games, going from game to game, your experience can vary widely if your weapon has been changed a lot. Your experience with Wild's Greatsword is going to be very different than your experience with World Greatsword, and your experience with World Greatsword will be very different than your experience with 4U Greatsword, and your experience with 4U Greatsword is going to vary very differently than Monster Hunter 1's Greatsword. So, how in the world, in this world full of anecdotes and experiences that we all have, and it seems that everyone just has different feelings towards the series, how in the world are we supposed to take everything so seriously in regards to people that were there day one at launch for these games versus people that show up 2 or 3 years later and they're playing a completely different game at this point? Maybe movesets have changed, maybe monsters have been buffed or nerfed in some different way, maybe progression has been changed completely outright. like the Sunbreak anomaly system, or Iceborne's Guiding Lance. And how in the world are we supposed to value the opinions of those that were playing the esoteric version of the game that no longer exists anymore? Or are we supposed to value the experiences of those that came after, and they're experiencing the finalized product that most people will remember the game for? What do you think, Zen?
This is not easy to talk about at all. What I've come to understand about the situation is that there's people that will stick to Monster Hunter no matter what. And that is obviously great. Like, there's people that are really, really big fans of this franchise, and they will go through thick and thin to experience everything that this game has to offer, right? So I think that most of the outrage that comes from really loud people, they tend to be the minority because they tend to be people that will play this game no matter what. So they have to deal with the bullshit, right? And then you have other people that will go, like, they will come and go to the game, mostly when they feel like it, or when they feel that it has something new to offer. And so that's what creates this very different experience from person to person, I think. It's the fact that also the player base has people with completely different expectations. Some people want some people want this game to be like the one game that they play, the only one, right? And I guess that comes from the mentality of having or being a very big fan of something that can offer you hours and hours of fun and entertainment to you. And some people just want to, tag along, see the cool things that are available in the game, see the cool title updates. Maybe they bought the game on release and they briefly explored that version of the game, and then they completely checked out until like a year later, right? So then they come back to a lot of additional content, new experiences, maybe weapon changes even. In fact, I was trying to remember if there's ever been a game, a Monster Hunter before, where weapons would have such direct changes as what we're seeing now with Hammered, for example, or like with what happened from beta to the actual game, when they change Inseclave to have, the aerial bounce. They change some aspects of like switch axe and other weapons. I think that maybe you can help me with this. Is this the first Monster Hunter where they are actually trying to make big, like even like motion value changes to the weapons mid title updates? I don't think that happened before.
I mean, hell, Hammer's about to be getting a whole nother move. And that's pretty much unheard of.
I think, right? I think the only change that I remember was they made Sword and Shield Clutch Claw with the Shoryuken in Iceborne be able to tenderize immediately compared to having to tenderize 2 times. And so changes like those, I think, represent something that Wilds has from a philosophy or design point of view. I think Wilds was designed to be a canvas on which Capcom can now add so many layers on top of it that they can really expand on the experience. So this is why we have this kind of like watered down experience now. It's because we are only looking at the very initial like strokes of what this canvas can allow you to do. And we can see this in things like Akuma. What is going on with that thing? We've never seen anything before like that. And Akuma is probably one of the most interesting and like exciting experiences that they have added to the game, simply because of how outlandish it is. But that's also a reflection of what this new, I don't think it's a new engine, but what this new world and the design behind Monster Hunter Wilds allows, right? It's a lot of potential, in my opinion. The game definitely has a lot of potential. But because it was thought of it that way, and this is only my opinion, my perception, we are seeing a very simple and maybe even lackluster version of the game. It's because there's so much that you can build on top of it from here on.
Well, I think that what you're proposing is very generous, very kind.
Maybe it is. Absolutely.
I think it speaks more so into the tactical advantage of title updates existing. This kind of fine tuning as the game is out, like adding different aspects to moves, stuff like that. That didn't really exist in Monster Hunter until title updates happened. Whereas like most changes you would see would be from the just base version of the game and then the ultimate version of the game or the G version of the game. Like you would see a lot of those differences happen there. And
in like very big titles.
Yeah, well it was you had the equivalent to the base game and the DLC would be the base game, and then you would have the ultimate version, which was just the base game packaged with the DLC again, except with the new changes and maybe some different quests and things like that. And so there was no like actual equivalent to the title update model in old gen, and so that is like a very important thing to think about, is that while yes there are things that can be lackluster, things can be changed across time, more so than just event only monsters that are already in the code and just made available whenever the events come out. We're talking monsters that weren't even initially planned to be in, like Behemoth from World, and things that weren't initially planned to be in, like Akuma potentially, or another move for Hammer, for example. So there's also this blank canvas. There's definitely stuff on the canvas already. They got to work with what they got, but they get the option to rectify mistakes. They get the option to do things to fix it. Monster Hunter Rise notoriously launched and they accidentally messed up and had charm tables in for like a good 2 weeks or something, or at least 2 weeks after it had been found out. And I don't remember how much time had passed at that point since launch, but as soon as they were made aware, they fixed it within like 2 weeks, I think. Monster Hunter 3U to this day still has charm tables. You still have to start a whole new save if you want to get a better charm table if you have a fucked up one.
Yeah, I'm really not a fan of that type of design. And it's happening with wounds now. Did you know?
Yeah, the wound RNG. Yeah.
The tempered wounds.
Well, the thing is, like, if anything, Rise showcased that it can happen unintentionally. So who knows if it was even intentional in 3 or not. I mean, who knows? Maybe there's a developer. Maybe there's some interview that surfaced up somewhere that, whatever. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, whatever. But Rise goes to show that, if a mistake like that happens, it can be fixed with the patches and with the updates and the update model. These are some of the advantages of getting the games the way that we have them. Not only, we may be getting weaker products at first. We may be getting weaker products, but by the end of their product cycle and updates and all these different things, the potential for peak is there. Sunbreak drip-fed anomaly system was very, very shitty. But Sunbreak Completed is one of my favorite end games.
It's pretty nuts. No, it's amazing.
Yeah, and like they didn't just change up anomaly system shit to like leveling and everything. No, they added different talisman rolls with some of the different monsters they would add in. They changed how augmenting works. They changed it to where boosting slots when augmenting actually gives you sharpness and other things like that. So like there's all sorts of different layers that have been changed that have made the experience better and more rewarding than it was whenever I was playing through it as the updates were coming out. And my experience as someone who is playing through it while the updates were coming out, and then later replaying it on Xbox whenever everything was already finished, my experience is different for both of those experiences. But I would say that both of them carry weight. It's completely totally fair to judge Wilds or World or Rise based on the states of the game that you played it in. You paid full price for this game. There's no excuse. You know? You paid full price for this game. This wasn't a game preview. It wasn't advertised as such. This is a full game. And whenever you pay full price, you're basically shaking hands with the company saying, hey, whatever you got, I paid this money for it, I'm taking it. And you can choose not to update it or anything, but I paid full price for this. And you want to know what? Monster Hunter Wilds sold 10 mil copies on hype and hype alone. But we have seen this same pattern.
Pretty crazy.
World did this and sold 5 million copies. Rise did this title update model and sold however many copies, whatever. I forgot exactly how much it sold at launch. But 10 mil copies at launch. It's not just the people that bought these games that are going to buy these games on sale 2 years from now. It's not just their problem. It's also all of us that bought the game at launch. We're paying money to feed into this model of title updates and shoving more microtransactions in our face and holding off on shit and then bringing shit back out. And then maybe instead of maybe playtesting in-house with real people, you know, because there's a lot of shit in Monster Hunter New Gen that almost doesn't feel like they play tested. And it almost feels like we're the playtesters. I'm not going to levy that as an actual accusation, but I'm saying it just feels like that sometimes. It feels like that.
It can be. We had 2 open betas, which I would say it's more than the average game gets these days.
Well, I don't mind the open betas. I don't mind the open betas because they're good, like, for letting people try out the game. I always like betas. Feedback. But the thing is, I don't like the aspect of playing through a game and there's just certain things that either work or don't work that would get caught in testing, and maybe there would be a lot of feedback and shit, but they just for some reason didn't catch it until launch or until the beta.
You know what's interesting? I cannot say the name because of, like, you know, I don't want to dox anyone, but one of the people on your Discord is a game developer, and I had the opportunity to talk to them.
We can say Hitman.
Oh yes,
yeah,
okay,
Hitman.
So yeah, Hitman.
Shout out to Hitman, by the way.
Yes, absolutely, absolute chat. I had this chance to stay one night, just like late that night, talking to him because I wanted to know more about the video game industry. And one of the things that he told me is that today it is a very weird situation to try to be a quality assurance tester, or I think it was quality tester or quality assurance, basically to work in quality assurance for games, because it's very difficult to get people that have the expertise to completely, like, pick your game apart, to look at every single aspect of it, and then to be able to give feedback in a way that is valuable to developers, right? So the position of its, like, on itself is weird because it's not like an actual career. It's just people that like games giving their opinion about games. And today it seems that it is more and more difficult, or it's like not difficult, but just unfavored by companies to hire or get people to try their things. And I think that they are kind of like externalizing that aspect to content creators, you know, where they give the key of the game to specific people around the community. They can try it, they can do reviews. But that's not the point, you know, like today, quality assurance is kind of seen as well, this is the other thing. In development, there's so many other, like, more urgent things, especially when you're contending with the demands of investors or shareholders or, like, people that want this product right now for this fiscal year, that sometimes you will find yourself as a developer with your hands tied. And it's funny that you're bringing this topic up because I did a video about the sales of Wilds and how it basically saved Capcom from like not reaching their financial target for 2024, right?
Yeah.
On the comments on that video, some people were actually sharing really interesting points. Somebody told me that the Monster Hunter devs kind of like had to fight Capcom to ask them for 2 more months of development time. The game was set to release on December, and the devs were like, you have no idea how unplayable this game is right now as of December. Like, if we release this thing in December, it's gonna be a fucking disaster. And so we need more time. Let us release the game on February. And this apparently, like allegedly, according to the person who made this comment, this is like inside info that they got. So I'm starting to see
insider in the comments, a hacker man.
yeah. I'm starting to see a disconnect, and this is why I tried to bring up to the video. I'm starting to see a disconnect between the Monster Hunter devs and what Capcom is trying to do as a company. And I wish more people started to talk more about what is the relationship that you have with the franchise and how you separate that from the relationship that you have with Capcom. Because when you give money to Capcom to like greenlight an unfinished game, you're voting with your wallet that is okay to you.
Well, that's that whole premise of, we're all part of the problem. Like, we're all buying this game at launch, but then also they literally call it strategic sales. I'll show up some Capcom financial report shit. They literally call it strategic sales. They sell these finished products and they literally squeeze as much money as possible as they can out of these games, and it works. It works. And they make so much money off of it. And the funny aspect of Wild's hype was that a lot of the hype was generated off of the backbone of the Return to World campaign.
For sure.
And during the Return to World campaign,
it was really effective.
Yeah, during the Return to World campaign, more copies of Iceborne were sold, but it was off of the hype of sales from them pulling people off of Sunbreak. I can pull it up right now. When Sunbreak launched, that's whenever Iceborne broke 10 million copies sold. Now, we know that Iceborne hit 5 million copies sold in 7 months. It took 7 months for Iceborne to sell 5 million copies. Now imagine that real quick for 1 second. The 14 million selling Monster Hunter World took 7 months. No, 15 million at that point. It took them 7 months to sell 5 million copies of Iceborne. They had less copies sold overall than Monster Hunter Rise, who had 12 million at that point. And they also took 7 months to sell 5 million copies of Sunbreak. Now, when Sunbreak came out and they sold 5 million copies, Monster Hunter World Iceborne sold 10 million. So during the 7-month process after Sunbreak and after the entirety of base Rise, which was a whole year, it took them that long to sell 10 million copies. So like by 7 months in, they had sold 5 million. Monster Hunter Rise hadn't even come out. And then it took all the way until Monster Hunter Sunbreak sold 5 mil to sell 10 million. And now they're up to like 15 million copies of Iceborne. A lot of that due to the backbone of Return to World campaign. And so we're looking at a game that has tripled its sales, but not in the span of during the content cycle. Not during the 1 or 2 year cycle of the DLC and title updates. No, it took them 4 to 5 years before they tripled their sales, and most of those sales happened not during World and Iceborne, mind you. It happened during Sunbreak and during Hype for Wilds.
Yeah.
Which is
so that
insane.
With that you have a whole group of people now, a considerable amount of people that have a completely different experience to what we had on release.
They not only never played the games during the heyday of the title updates, they didn't even play it like right after Iceborne hype. They played it just in hindsight hype. They literally played it in hindsight hype of people being like, oh, this game was on sale. Monster Hunter Rise isn't even World 2. You guys should go play this. And then, oh, Monster Hunter Wilds is going to be like World. You should go play World to get ready for Wilds. They lied, by the way. Smart marketing. Smart marketing.
No, I think if it's only about the marketing, it was brilliant marketing.
Well, that's the thing.
Like, I'm sorry.
That's the brilliant part of it. They managed to squeeze so much money out of this game. Because you got to think, they're not losing money off of putting games on sale. They're not losing money. You could argue, well, you know, they lose money in the end because they're selling it for $30 as opposed to having to buy the base game for $60 and then buy the DLC for $40. But no, they're not losing money off of that. They're getting people that normally would have never touched the franchise or wouldn't even touch the series or even bought World. They're getting millions of people to buy it on sale with what they literally call strategic sales. And so, like, you have people buying these games strategically. I mean, like, how would you feel, right? If you're a newcomer into the franchise and you come in and you've got 2 years worth of updates, you've got buffs to the Clutch Claw and Guiding Lance, that you never had to worry about dealing with the shitty versions of either of these. Not that Clutch Claw is not shitty still, but you didn't have to deal with the bullshit. All the content is there. You bought it on sale for a sweet fucking $30. Man, perfect deal, right? You didn't spend $100 on it, you know, getting the base game and then the DLC. You know, you did all this and you come in and you got this sweet deal and you're like, damn, this is great. And then you go and you buy the next game and you're like, what the fuck? Like, there's not much to this. There's really not much to this, and I spent way more. Like, understandably, yeah, you're probably frustrated from that. Understandably so. But here's the thing. There's going to be people just like you that never played, and whenever Monster Hunter Wilds in the DLC, what's the DLC going to be named? Monster Hunter Wilds ass hair or something like that. I don't know. You know,
according to Ruriken, is going to be Frontier.
Monster Hunter Wilds Frontier. That'd be You know, hey, if Ruri's right, that'd be funny. Whenever Monster Hunter Wilds Frontier comes out and you buy it for $30 and it's gone through 2 years worth of DLC cycles, there's going to be people that are like, this is the best game ever.
Yeah. To be fair, I have a tinfoil hat theory that Capcom, not the Monster Hunter devs, Capcom wants its Monster Hunter MMO. They want it. And what we're seeing, like, this is a bit of a tangent, but I think the reason why we're seeing a model that is so compatible with title updates, with patches, with hot fixes, with, you know, all of these releasable content and things that you can update during the content cycle, that model is very much how MMOs operate. You have a very basic, simple experience at launch, and then it's the patches that will add the content that brings the meat into the game. And I think that Capcom wants it. They really want that MMO, like, it's basically a gold mine if you pull it off well. But I'm not sure if the Monster Hunter devs are going to vibe with that.
Yeah, I don't know. They already tried with 2 different ones and they both failed miserably. But
it was a very different time though. In terms of like the culture and the perception of MMOs in general.
Yeah, but you got to think though, like they probably made more money off of Monster Hunter Now and had more success with Monster Hunter Now than they probably would with an MMO at this point.
That is also true, to be honest.
Like, because if we're really talking about money, the mobile gaming market is, and we see them diving into the mobile gaming market over things like MMO. And like they're no doubt going to make a lot of money off of Outlanders too, especially with like if they had some Gooner bait in there.
Yeah, doesn't that game have like a gacha system?
I think it's supposed to be kind of gacha-esque.
Right.
It's basically going to be Monster Hunter Genshin. Yeah. Which is kind of funny. But Yeah, I think that they're going to be following the money, and as long as we have people that are willing to buy at launch, and we have people that are willing to triple those sales post-launch, I think that they're not going to change the way that their model works, because it does work. And the people that are dissatisfied at the beginning, it's not going to matter as much, because Monster Hunter at this point is a household franchise. Now, who knows? Wilds is getting way more backlash than World did, and while Rise also got a lot of like hate and a lot of shit on it, Rise was like smaller scale, and people were also like, well, whatever, it's the portable team, it's the B team, it's the bad team. They basically just made the Dark Souls 2 of Monster Hunter, and we'll be right back in track whenever the mainline team comes in. And well, now people are shaking in their boots because they're realizing, wait, maybe things aren't going to get better. And maybe they overestimated just how good World really was. You know, maybe they overblew it a little bit just because they got to see their favorite series come to life. And it was a very, very different game. And Monster Hunter World paved the way for a lot of people to enjoy JRPGs, Japanese action RPGs specifically, in the West. And it was curated for that. It was made for a Western audience. Well, and you know, not for exactly, but it was made to appeal to a Western audience. And so World was a pioneer, but it suffered from the same pitfalls as Monster Hunter Wilds. It suffered from it's just some RNG bullshit over and over again in order to pad out time, because that was another famous, drama at the time. Wait, that's all there is to this game? You just go boss rush these monsters over and over again? And people were like, well, it's called Monster Hunter, What did you expect?
Yeah.
And it's just goofy because you also have so many different layers of it too. You don't just have, we also have the difficulty element. People talk about the challenge aspect without thinking about like Base World and Base Rise were also both criticized. World much less so than the other ones because of the amount of new players that were involved. Completely monopolized how many people were actually, playing the game, as opposed to people that came in and they didn't feel like World was that difficult because they, had experience in the franchise before, or, maybe you were someone like me who just understood that maybe you should drink potions to keep your health up and not just stand there and eat attacks over and over again.
Funny how the Palico can actually get you into the bad habit of never drinking potions, because they actually heal a lot even in Base World.
Yeah, the Vigor Wasp spray was heavy duty. But the thing is, like, if you were someone who came in and you didn't want to just fail utterly and you took a more careful approach, it was very, maybe your times would be longer, but you could take out monsters a lot easier that way, even if you didn't quite understand the game. Or you could play Insect Glaive and just be able to jump over attacks that other people can't and cheese the game that way.
But okay, so wait, so what is, because from a design perspective, I actually value that. The fact that, it takes longer for you to do it, but you can do it. I appreciate that. But how do you feel? Like, I feel that Monster Hunter from World onwards, and I feel that maybe old gen to some degree, but maybe it's just more punishing. It's not as lenient or maybe flexible as new gen is. But how I feel about Monster Hunter is a franchise that allows you to beat the game most of the times. You can always, or most of the times you can win in Monster Hunter, but that doesn't mean that you will like have outstanding results most of the time.
Yeah.
My first time fighting Pink Rathian, it took me, I triple carted the first time after like 40 minutes or so. It took me 30 minutes to kill Pink Rathian for the first time, which is nothing like the times that I get today. And I appreciate that experience of I can still win because of the tools and the resources that the game gives me. But that doesn't mean that I'm gonna be, or that I should feel completely satisfied with the result that I got, right? I ended that fight and I actually felt I felt like washed. I was like, what happened? I've been training with the longsword all this time, and I didn't feel for a moment that I was in control of this fight, of this situation, right? The game still rewarded me with the victory and the possibility to craft gear out of Pink Rathian, but it doesn't feel as satisfying as actually having a convincing victory over the fight. And I appreciate that, mostly because a lot of people will get discouraged really fast if they cannot win a little bit. So that's what I mean. How do you feel about that?
I think Monster Hunter is very lenient in a lot of ways, right? So you have 3 lives, you have 50 minutes time limit, which is basically, it might as well not even exist. Maybe some people hit 50 minutes, but there's never been a point in New Gen, or even besides like multi-monster quests in GU, I've never had to worry about that time. I think it varies just widely in general. So like if you're someone who cares about blasting through a game as easy as possible, you're going to be looking up like builds, you're going to be looking up what weapons might be easier, and you might gravitate towards it. Now, there's a lot of misinformation in the Monster Hunter community, don't get me wrong. Like
a lot.
People would, if you look up like easiest weapon in Monster Hunter World, maybe some people would be like, oh, it's definitely the longsword. It's definitely the longsword because it has counters. But IG can literally skip boss mechanics. IG can jump over it. IG has very little commitment on any of its attacks besides Tornado Slash. And even Tornado Slash has a whole shit ton of forward momentum. You can actually dodge out of enemy attacks while you're using it. And you can hit them with the backswing. And you can do that on accident. You don't have to be very good. Like whenever I think about, like when I think about my experience with Monster Hunter World, I didn't struggle in World. Despite, you know, I went over this in my difficulty video or whatever. I didn't struggle in World, despite it being like my first action RPG. You know, I didn't struggle. But I was also playing Insect Glaive. You know, like that's the thing. Like I didn't struggle, but
it gives you. Yeah.
Like,
and I think that's the point. It's like a lot of people don't say the but.
Yeah.
In a lot of the arguments that we have.
Well, like it goes both ways, right? Like I played Base World and I struggled a whole bunch, and it's like, what did you play? Oh, I played Greatsword. Oh, have you ever played any games like this? No. Well, I played God of War on PS2. Maybe something like that. It's like, yeah, I played hack and slashers. It's like, oh, so you played the big ass weapon that you have to commit to 3 separate strikes before you can do your biggest strike that's high damaging. The rest of your moveset is basically useless. And you also didn't even know that you could tackle until you fought Xeno'jiiva. You know, like you know, there's no like but. And like that's my thing with World. I had an easy time with World, but I had an easy time with IG. If I played with Charge Blade or Greatsword, my story would have been very different. But I'm not the type of player that likes to just sit and beat my head against the wall and struggle. If I can find an easier way to play that's still fun to me, I will play that way. And IG was that for me. IG had lesser commitment. IG had a lot of mobility during attacks. IG could jump over. I keep saying it. IG can skip mechanics. And enemies doing
I think for me it was similar to some degree because I played Longsword. Longsword has so much iframes on Foresight Slash that it literally builds a bad habit in me in which I didn't learn how to dodge in the game. I learned how to Foresight Slash.
See, but the
right?
difference
which is
between
terrible
like,
because
Well, like the difference between that and like even IG is that you would still have to time it up properly. You would still have to have the weapon in your hand and like do an attack and then foresight. Whereas like IG,
yeah, for sure.
If like let's say with IG, if I didn't jump over the enemy attack, like if I went too early, I still had an air dodge and I still had the B like tornado like pop up move that would prolong my air time. So I could do it like 5 years before a sweep would come in, just because I saw the tail, and I would still be in the air on command. So like, even with longsword, you could have developed a bad habit, but it's still nowhere near as like much of a crutch as like an IG.
No, for sure. It's the point is like then I grabbed switch axe, which forces you, right?
Yeah.
Like the contrast was so big, and I was like, holy shit, I think I'm bad at this game actually.
Yeah, that'll do it to you. That's what changing weapons does to you. You know?
Absolutely, yeah.
Like,
which is also great.
Like people watch people stun lock. People like watch people stun like monsters with the Savage Axe and Wilds, and then it's like, okay, you think it's that easy? Go do it. Go do it as Oshi or Temp 5 Gore if you want. Go play that play style against them, noob. Go see how easy it really is. You know, like
yes.
Yeah, good luck. You're not gonna be you've been playing Lance? Okay, good luck, buddy. You're gonna have a good time doing that.
Yeah.
You know?
Actually, I think some people had that problem with AT Ray down. Like they played Lance, they were loving it. Like, it was the best thing in the world. AT Ray down comes, and now if you block, you get punished by blocking. Because you have to block 2 times in a row, you cannot punish the moveset of the monster.
Yeah,
right?
Weapon matchups can change the game. Weapon matchups change the game. And that's the whole thing about like the challenge aspect. Is the challenge aspect only goes so far as far as mastery goes of like learning the basics of the games, learning the weapons as a whole. You know, if you stick with the weapon that you play with over and over again every single gaming iteration, and maybe you played the hardest version of the weapon in the past 3 entries and then you play the easier one, of course the game's going to be easier to you. It's just the way it goes. You know, that it is what it is. But as far as challenge goes, given skill sets and given natural evolution of the player base, you know what? Actually, this is the perfect time to pull up Maximilliandude's video. So Maximilliandude.
Oh yeah, I like this video actually.
Yeah, it's not a bad vid, but the funny thing is, Max started in World. He's recently been playing GU. Funny enough. I don't know how far back he started though. I don't know if he started in Return to World or if he started back in. I think he played Rise, so I think he started. You know, maybe he was playing day one. I don't know. But he had the learning curve and all of that. Well, Max brings up like an interesting viewpoint. Now, Max is a multi-gamer. I can relate. I'm the same way. I don't just stick
mainly
to one
a
game.
fighting games type of guy.
Yeah, he also plays fighting games. Well, he also plays like shooters and stuff. Like Max plays a whole bunch of shit. And
but I mean that he has been to competitive scenes of fighting games, so that's like his main niche. But obviously, he has so much experience in other game genres.
Yeah. And, you know, anyone who's played a fighting game knows that, like, it takes a whole different kind of beast to be really good at those games. So,
yeah.
Max says a couple things, and they're things that can apply to World and Rise. I mean, hell, there are things that can apply to some old gen games if you really, you know, boil it down. I felt a similar way in GU as I was playing through it. I didn't really struggle much until I hit the real late game stuff, like some of the late game hyper monsters and deviant monsters. And this is the same feeling that I get in Monster Hunter, and it's probably the same feeling most of you guys watching get as well. The concept of whenever you enter into a hunt with monsters, especially if you're a solo player, you know, without the multiplayer random element where you don't know if you're going to complete the quest because other people might double or triple cart. If you're like specifically in a more controlled setting, there's a certain point where you're playing these games and it's almost written in stone. When I enter this hunt, I know that the monster's going to die. I know that the monster is going to be captured or die. There's no chance that I'm going to fail this hunt. I may take like an extra 2 minutes to hunt it if I'm playing sloppy, but there's no chance that I'm going to fail this quest. There's not many monsters across New Gen that can make me feel that way, unless I'm doing something like playing a weapon I'm really bad with, and I'm playing against like a really end game like type monster or something, or like a really beefed up super monster, like a special investigation from Sunbreak or something, or Fatalis. But here's just, I'm gonna play these clips, and Zune, we'll talk about it a little bit.
Sort of defines the issue that I have with Monster Hunter Wilds. People are like, what if the Akuma stuff is meta? And I'm like, who cares what the meta is in Monster Hunter, dude? Like, the meta doesn't matter because I don't need to like optimize shit because things just die. There's no need for me to try to like really optimize my game plan because I just swing and things die. Yeah, check out this clip. This clip explains a lot.
And then we have this other clip.
A perfect example of that. I think the same thing also happened to Monster Hunter Wilds, where in Monster Hunter, it's great. The combat's amazing. We all know that the game is super fun and the game is combat amazing, but why do I need to deeply go grind gear? Why do I even need to spend time really mashing out this one monster to get this piece of gear that allows this thing to unlock so that I can take a 5-minute fight and turn it into a 3-minute fight? I just don't know if this game really is trying to like hit me in the ways that the previous games do, where I have to like overcome these odds and situations, so much to the point that there's been some newer fights that come out and I'm like, yeah, what does the fight last, like 8 minutes now? And it's like, well, we'll see. Like, to me, Monster Hunter Wilds is the perfect example of like, it's still a lot of fun, but I feel like they may have reduced the friction in that game a little bit too much, and it already was severely reduced in World and severely reduced in Rise to a certain point. Now it's just hunting for drip. I don't even need to really know how to play the game. We just go in and whoop the fuck out of monsters, dude. They fucking get roasted, man. I don't know. It's like, to me, like the whole, there needs to be a reason for me to play, and just hunting for drip isn't like a great reason, you know? It's not just the thing that keeps me going. Like, I want to overcome, I want things to be beaten. I want to have reasons to grow and get better, to help my friends, to do this kind of stuff, to be more reliable. Like, I don't think games should just be necessarily 150% hard. We don't need things to be that, you know? It does not need to be as difficult as even Generations Ultimate, but friction is what makes games fun. Even to the point where I think fighting games have sort of gotten into a...
Okay. So, there's a couple things that I want to highlight. Now,
All right.
the concept of something to work towards, I think, is important in Monster Hunter. But I think that it varies from person to person. So Max here is mostly talking about Monster Hunter Wilds. And he's like, there's not really a need for me to optimize because things are going to die regardless. What am I optimizing for? To turn this 5-minute hunt into a 3-minute hunt? You know, for drip? As someone who only moderately cares about drip, I make like 1 or 2 fashion sets a game. Maybe I'll make some more periodically as I play, but it's not really something I go out of my way to do. You know, and someone who, as I, you know, just expressed, I feel like things are set in stone when I play Monster Hunter, specifically New Gen, unless like I do certain challenge parameters around myself, like play a weapon I'm ass with or something. The concept of shaving time down from 5 minutes to 3 minutes is incredibly important to a lot of the members in the Monster Hunter community. Getting better at the hunts is just as valuable as beating the hunts, because one of them actually expresses mastery of the hunt. Now, Max, multi-gamer, not really super engrossed in the Monster Hunter community. This is the outlook of, I'm not going to say normie outlook, but this is the outlook of a normal person playing Monster Hunter. People, you know, I forgot who I was listening to, but they were talking about the concept of the video game tourist. the concept of the tourist is someone who's coming into your series and they're not really as invested as you, and they play it and they leave, and maybe they have opinions of it that aren't very nuanced, especially in regards to the series as a whole, or maybe the community sentiment around it, but they have their opinions regardless. Their opinion matters a lot because the tourists are the people that fund your game. There's going to be plenty of people that aren't ever going to interact in comment sections or on subreddits or on Twitter or on YouTube streams or anywhere. Like if you look up Monster Hunter's most watched videos, it's not even going to get close to the amount of buys that the game has. If you go look up a Monster Hunter World video, in fact, let me look up Monster Hunter World real quick. If you look up Monster Hunter World and then you filter by view count, the highest amount of views for Monster Hunter World is a video game donkey video from 7 years ago with 12 million views. Most of those guys are probably just donkey fans. Let's see about the real guys. We got 11 million views. Monster Hunter World shots new and old Devil Joe 7 years ago. 11 million people watched this 4-minute video out of 28 million buyers of Monster Hunter World. There's only so much actual interaction.
Yo, that's actually very funny. Like, scroll down for a second. Team Darkside right there. No, not so much. There. Team Darkside, their most watched video is just them showcasing the size of the monsters, and that's a speedrun channel.
Yeah. So like, Monster Hunter, the official trailer of the movie is clearing everything more. 15 million views. So like, the thing is, typically you see videos with a bit more mass appeal get more like view traction, but the reality is most people are not actually interacting with the community in a regular basis and not in touch with everything that the community feels, and also not in touch with everything across the series. We had to take a quick water break. My voice was giving out with the sickness, down with the sickness right now. But basically what I was getting at was the concept of the tourist. The tourists are funding the game. Whether they play only through the story, or maybe they only fight hunts once, maybe they don't experience the game the same way as you, maybe they come in with like a full team streaming of like really good other Monster Hunter players that just kind of like carry them a little bit, and they're playing with the strongest weapon iteration that they've played across the series, and maybe they only experiment a little bit with different things. It doesn't really matter. They paid the same amount of money as you. You know? And the fact of the matter is, there are tourists with good opinions, tourists with bad opinions. It's whatever. Max is showcasing a feeling that people might have where they don't care about the time attack aspect that a lot of people care about with Monster Hunter. They don't care about the drip like a lot of people care about with Monster Hunter. They care about a different thing. And their experience is just as valid, not even just from a moral, philosophical standpoint. No, they paid as much money as you.
Yes. I think this is why it's so difficult to, if you want to like bring the argument that we should not tolerate quote unquote unfinished games. It's very difficult to have a community sentiment where everybody agrees that we shouldn't pay for unfinished games, because you will have these other group of people that they will simply buy the game and they don't have any expectations because they have no references. And that happens all the time.
I guarantee you, whether Zoshia had armor at launch, and if the high rank Zoshia fight was out at launch, it still wouldn't change Maximilliandude's opinion.
Probably, yeah.
Like little things like that.
And the other thing is, like, we can say, oh, but like they don't have to deal with the bullshit that we have to see, but they are still kind of like supporting the franchise at the end, which makes it so that we can eventually get to that point where everybody's celebrating the game because the title updates come around and the game starts to get polish, and eventually has a much better, complete, polished version in the end. They are also funding that.
The inevitable, this game was better than I thought, and it's because there's been a whole bunch of extra stuff put in. But I mean, you can sit and you can listen to what Max says, and you could be like, well, that applies to like all of new gen, basically. Like what I mean, even it didn't pop off or anything, but I have my own video of how to beat Alatreon with no element, no RNG decos, no augments, no fatalis gear. And I showcase in the video, like that was only like my 7th Alatreon kill. And so it's not like it's a fight that I've mastered. And it is also, I went back to fight him after not fighting him for years and years. So and Alatron's famously the fight you have to plan for in the game that was famous for not having any planning. You didn't have to prep in World. One of the things a lot of people didn't like about it that came from old gen, and in the one hunt that you have to prep for, I showcase how you don't actually have to prep in the way that people think. You know, if I had any of these,
go ahead.
If I had any of these 4 things, it would have made the fight that much easier to do. You know, with even less like optimization in terms of my battle strategy and my actual fighting itself. The thing is, like, everyone is looking for that thing, right? So maybe people are looking for an experience relearning the game. And I touch on that a lot in my difficulty video. They want to relearn something, or maybe they want to re-experience the difficulty or challenge of something while they were in the process of learning. And it's just not feasible that they can experience that ever again. It's kind of like that first high on hard drugs. Not promoting drugs, by the way, but apparently this is how it works. You take a highly addictive substance, that's the highest high you experience, and then you are a junkie from then on, chasing that high, but every single subsequent high is lessened and lessened and lessened. And so you basically go mad because you cannot repeat the same thing, but you can't stop because you constantly chase it. If you do that, if you approach Monster Hunter that same way, you will go mad. Unless you experience other unconventional ways to play. You know, whether that's challenge running, or if it's going back and playing old gen Monster Hunter, that is legitimately more difficult from a design philosophy standpoint. It is made to be more difficult. You know, there's no way you're going to catch that high again. And even whenever you do, like even whenever they inevitably do add the super boss monster of the base game or the DLC, at some point that monster is probably not going to give you that high anymore. And at that point, that's whenever you need to start. If you really love Monster Hunter and you really, really are invested, that's when you start exploring the other avenues. Okay, I can beat Fatalis 99% of the times I fight him. Okay, what do I do now? Well, maybe I should turn my hunts from 18 minutes long against him. Maybe I should try to get it under 15 minutes. And that's where it starts. That's where the real game actually starts. It's not just beating the challenge, because beating the challenge is only the start. Monster Hunter foundationally is a game built upon repetitions. The RNG itself is built around it. And even Wilds, the game where you can guarantee decorations, I mean, jewels, the game where you can guarantee jewels, you would still need to beat the monster more than once to get all of the parts necessary to make their equipment.
Yeah. I think Wilds has a problem where they have kind of... It's like they have miscommunicated with the player from a design perspective, where they put the priority on the progression so that the player engages with a very limited part of the game, which for about 2 to 3 weeks it was only Archveld for those Artian parts, right?
No,
I think
that was because of shitty design choices.
That's what I mean. It's like it's very likely that even the tourists got a glimpse of that experience of repetition and getting better at a fight simply because the game pointed them towards fighting Archveld and only Archveld for some time.
Actually, I don't know, dude. I don't know. So the funny thing about tourists is that they play the game unoptimally anyways. And so like the Archveld frame trap that we were all stuck in, that's like something like a more efficient player would really be paying attention to mostly.
Maybe it is. But I think that just in general, even if you didn't fall into that because of the rewards, it's very easy to fall into that because it was perceived to be the most difficult monster. So if you beat Archveld, you beat the game.
True, it was the final game. Well, here's a funny thing.
Maybe like Gore was on the side, but Gore was 7-star. He couldn't be 8 stars. So,
well, like you have your final boss, right? And Archveld is effectively like the final boss of the game. So, funny story about
release,
me,
right?
Yeah, at release. Well, whenever I played Base World, I made the entirety of the Xeno'jiiva set because he was the final boss, and I was like, surely the final boss armor is the best. And I saw Flinch Free.
I did the same thing.
Yeah, I saw Flinch Free on his armor, and I was like, oh, that sounds overpowered. Prevents knockback on attack? That means I can fly in the air and I won't get knocked down whenever I get hit.
Yeah. No, it happens.
I made his whole set, and it didn't do that. And I was like, this is ass.
Yeah.
So this is not good. And
I think I played with the Nergiganta set simply because it had like a bunch of points on attack and like I don't know, like what else? Max Might.
Oh, dog! I didn't start building attack until Iceborne dropped. No, right before Iceborne dropped. That was the funny thing about me. I didn't know shit.
I remember, this kind of like talks back to what you said about chasing that high of learning. I've never felt my brain expanding so much as when I felt the difference between having weakness exploit and not having it. I was looking at numbers that I didn't thought were possible in this game. And it's mostly because you discover these little like things in the game that add a new layer of complexity and that allow you to discover new ways to approach it. Maybe that's in the end the way that we should address wilds for a while now is we should just try to look for just different perspectives or different angles to approach the game. If you truly want to make this game something that you're going to be playing so much, maybe it's time to learn a new weapon. Maybe it's time to like try speedrunning for the first time.
Or maybe it's time to even just play another game.
I'm completely in favor of that. Yeah. Absolutely. I think that there's a big part of the conversation around games in general, especially games that are a little bit live service-y,
Yeah.
There's this huge expectation that a game that is live service is going to be the game that's going to keep you busy for like the next 5 months or something. And it's simply because in those models, that is how it actually goes. Monster Hunter, however, as much as they try to flirt with this model, is not a live service game. It's a finished game. There's a point where you do everything you can do. And there's nothing wrong with moving on from that point onwards. This is what I find so funny about the whole conversation of how like the player base was declining. There's nothing wrong with that. This game has a finite amount of content. This is not a game that is, even though they are trying to make it that way, this is not a game that should pretend to keep players engaged so much, because things eventually you do everything that there is in the game, and that's fine. You can move on to other games. People have other things to do in their lives. I am very against these like models that really try to keep engagement artificially of the players by maybe giving daily bonuses or having daily quests that you have to do to keep up with progression, or having, like, for example, the argent weapons with the RNG. You know, it keeps you playing, but it's only artificially. It's not really something that gives you tangible progression or a different experience every time you engage with it.
Yeah, it's just
right?
Skinner box RNG.
Yeah, and so it's okay. It's okay to stop playing for a while, go do other things. Like, I feel maybe that is another point that is like a big part of why the whole conversation around, you know, the feeling of the unfinished game, like, burst so much, is because people had really, really high expectations of how much Wilds was going to satisfy an experience that they were looking for. An experience that had to do with a lot of game time, a lot of engagement, a lot of content. And then the game arrived and the content was not quite there. It is getting to a point where it is there, which is great, but it was nowhere near as much as people wanted it to be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's also the huge possibility that they're pulling punches right now to go extremely hambo in the DLC. We saw that happen with Rise and Sunbreak, where Rise had its amazing, like, game finishing title updates, and then they just went ghost quiet. And then Sunbreak drops, and Sunbreak is huge, massive.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, even before the anomaly system was completed, like, Sunbreak was massive.
Yeah, I can see that.
And so maybe they might do something like that. Hopefully, you know, that's major cope. But
it is. In my opinion, I would just have Wilds be as much hype as it can be, and then just for the DLC, they'll have to find a way to reinvent themselves to make it even bigger. I'm sorry.
Well, the thing is, I don't think that they're very insecure about the
not really.
About the sales and everything. So, like, you know, we look at, like, the Goliath sales that have been happening in Capcom recently, but Capcom broke its record with Monster Hunter World at 14 million. Like, they had already smashed records with something like Base Rise has outsold, like, that record at that point, you know. So I don't think they're insecure about.
Oh, you mean like, wait, do you mean like Wilds has broken the record?
No, like World broke the Capcom highest sold game record at like 14 million sales.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And Monster Hunter keeps selling and selling and selling like hotcakes. And the thing is, you know, this is why I bring up Monster Hunter's mid, and it's continued to be mid, and everyone's at fault. Because we keep getting these huge strategic sales and people hyping the game, and it's like rightfully so, right? Like, if you're a big fan, if you want to have brand loyalty or whatever, that's you. I love Monster Hunter. You know, I've been saying things like the base games have been mid, and even the base DLCs when they drop are kind of mid in their own ways. I have played a shit ton of Monster Hunter, and not just played a shit ton of Monster Hunter. I've delved deep into these Monster Hunter games. There weren't many people that beat all 58 special investigations and have that guild card special investigation medal, you know, on their guild card for all 58 of the special investigation monsters. There weren't not too many people that have done all 228 of the deviant quests in GU. I mean, shit, I guess comparatively, there still aren't too many people that have soloed Fatalis and Iceborne compared to how many people have played World or touched World.
Yeah.
So I am heavily invested into these games, and I've played all of the games in New Gen since their launch periods. And so maybe I am a little more nonchalant about shitty launches, because it's what I expect from Capcom and the Capcom team. The Monster Hunter team, like, people glazed World up because it was a pioneer in a lot of ways. Like World really paved the way for Monster Hunter as a whole. And for that, it will always be the series darling, at least for a long time, probably. And it's where most people, probably ever in Monster Hunter, will get their start. Which makes it interesting. But Monster Hunter World came out with all of the different like quirks that Wilds has, with a not so great end game, small roster, all these different things. Not really much challenge offered. When you really think about the grand scheme of things, unless you were like having to learn from the ground up, or you're playing with a more difficult weapon or whatever. Monster Hunter World came out in 2018, and it came out the same year as so many crazy good games. From Red Dead 2 to God of War 2018. I think the first Spider-Man game came out at that time. Dragon Ball Fighters, I think came out at that time. Hollow Knight came out almost at that time. Like, so many like good games came out that time period that were completely finished. It didn't take them 2 years to get a crazy amount of content. It took a while before World hit the state that it did, that people consider it to be a titan of the industry now.
Yeah.
Subnautica came out in 2018, I think.
Oh, Darsh, I don't like the. I mean, I have a little bit of how do you call it? Thalassophobia, I think it's.
Oh yeah, yeah, I can see that game being scary.
In concept, the game sounds amazing to me, but I just cannot.
Yeah. And so it's like, as it stands, Monster Hunter, Capcom knows they're releasing kind of like a mediocre-ish product. Like, they know. We don't have to tell them. And I don't think they're insecure about it. But these are savvy businessmen. And they know how to squeeze the money out of you. And as long as you buy it on sale later and then praise it to high hell, or you buy it on launch, and even if you hate it and you just review it bad or whatever, you still paid the money for it.
Yes. It's like you can have all the opinions you want about how unethical or maybe unacceptable it can be to have an unfinished product. But if you paid the money for it, you kind of invalidated your opinion with that action.
I wouldn't say you necessarily invalidated your opinion, but you definitely softened it. You definitely softened it.
It's so contradictory, Now, I think that, like, this is how I feel about this for this time around only. And it's the fact that we didn't know just how many, like, issues they were having in development. We are starting to see them more now because people are like talking more about it. But I also didn't have the context of Capcom's financial situation. I was not aware that the Return to World campaign could have been such a huge marketing, it's like almost like a scheme,
Oh, dude, I called it as soon as I saw the trailers for Wilds.
No, I didn't know. I had no idea, because sometimes I am a little naive when engaging with the games that I like. I want to support them because they give me an experience that I appreciate it, and I don't pay too much attention to what's going on the market or on development. And maybe I have to do that. I have to do more of that now. But it's very tiring to me just to not being able to just enjoy the hobby, and I have to engage with. I have to keep up with so much bullshit that is going on around the industry,
Yeah.
And
that's the whole thing, right?
Because
the Capcom devs, they're not your friends. They're people you do business with.
Exactly. And so and now you have to pay attention if you don't want to, feel scammed. And sometimes you can feel scammed for the wrong reasons. Like, I feel like, for example, people might feel scammed with Wilds, but only now we have the full picture of what happened with the development of that game.
Yeah.
Right. So it's only fair that I mean, I'm not saying that this is justifiable. It's only that in my case, I bought the game thinking that everything was fine, and then it's not so simple. It was just not that simple. So that's why I'm saying it's it's the case in Wilds that. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I think at some point we got to either just be honest with ourselves, or like we have to start like scrutinizing like things a little more. And it's like fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, kind of deal.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I definitely like people. It's not a bad trait to have trusting like qualities. Like if you want to trust people, or if like you have investment into a series and you really believe, like you have goodwill and everything. I don't think that's a necessarily bad trait to have. I don't think that makes you a bad or stupid person. But for me, I don't know if I've ever expressed it in my like older videos. Like I say that like I've had a channel for over a year. I haven't. I don't think I've ever expressed it then. But for my core like friend group and things like that, I knew what I was getting into when I bought Monster Hunter Wilds. And it's like it's the same expectation I have with World and with Rise, and like seeing Iceborne, seeing Sunbreak, seeing the launches for all these different titles. And there are plenty of other people that followed the same path as me, but I'm also a lot more of a skeptic. And I'm a lot more of a scrutinizer than other people. If someone makes a claim about something, I like to see it, in a lot of ways. Or I like to, come up with my own. And Wilds it had a little bit of extra bullshit than I would have liked, but it was par for the course for me. Like, the thing about Monster Hunter New Gen that title updates are advantageous we talked about it earlier, the honing of the game as it goes, as it's
Yes.
Being updated. But also you have centralized funnels that don't exist in any other type of game. Like when Elden Ring dropped, it was an amazing experience. And everyone was working through it at their own pace, and it was such a good time, and it was so cool. But there was no like, okay, we're dropping Millennia now, and after a month has passed by, and then all of a sudden, everyone, since they've already beaten the game, everyone is funneled and focused on Millennia. Everyone's getting shit on at the same time. Everyone, like the matchmaking is more dense than ever. You'll never have to wait to fight a Millennia. You'll never have to like do anything in that way. And it's that way for like a good 2 weeks or so. And like everyone's just on the same page in the community at the same time. There was never that way in Elden Ring. You have people fighting Millennia a week in. You have people fighting Millennia 2 weeks in. You have people fighting Millennia 2 months later. But not everyone was at the same page at the same time. Whereas we look at Monster Hunter World and we look at Monster Hunter Rise, and people were on the same page when Kulve dropped. People were on the same page when Extremith and Behemoth dropped or whatever. People were on the same page whenever Raging Bracky and Rajang came out. People were on the same page when Fatalis came out. People were on the same page when Valstrax came to Rise. People were on the same page whenever Apex Zenogre came out. People were on the same page whenever Amatsu came out. Violet Mizu, Flaming Espinas, just any of these monsters. People were on the same page. Everyone was talking about it at that time. It was the talk of the town, and everyone was there, and everyone was participating that wanted to participate. You know, people that stopped playing, whatever, they stopped playing, but they would have stopped playing regardless. And I think that's one of the special like aspects of playing at launch for new gen Monster Hunter, is that there are moments when the community comes together. Like Akuma drops, and everyone's talking about Akuma, and everyone's experimenting with it, and everyone's doing the Akuma quest. Like that's fucking cool. That's really cool. If like Akuma dropped like Prowler and was just the 15th weapon from the get-go, there would be people in low rank, you know, not getting to it before other people in high rank were getting to it, but everyone's kind of discovering it at the same time. And that is really, like, I know what I'm getting into when I buy a new gen Monster Hunter. I know that I'm getting a sort of mediocre product that is more than likely going to turn into something really, really extraordinary later. But those little bumps along the way, you know, maybe experiencing something that might get phased out later, like experiencing base Rise Longsword. I'll never get to experience that again. And for people that came in during Sunbreak, they never got to experience it. They never got to experience base Rise Longsword. That's such a weird thing to think about. Playing Monster Hunter World, I got to play through the whole roster before Clagger was added.
Oh yeah, well, that's how you get, for example, people like Riken saying that their favorite iteration maybe of Monster Hunter is Base World.
Yeah, Rui's favorite is Base World.
It's an experience. It's an experience that doesn't exist anymore. But you know, he got to experience that at that moment, and that is why he has that appreciation. It's because now there's so much contrast between what Iceborne is now compared to that. That is, you know, it's noticeable for the people that were there at the moment.
Yeah,
and I think it's going to be the same for us. The people that were there now can tell these stories. You know, now we can have these perspectives, this kind of like journey that comes with being there from release.
Yeah,
and seeing how things play out.
Yeah, so that's it for me, right? Like I'm shaking hands with Cap. I'm making a deal with the devil, and I'm like,
in a way, it feels like it.
Yeah, I'm like, give me my mediocre product, give me my mid fucking Monster Hunter, and I know you're gonna turn it into something great.
Make it better.
Yeah, I know you're gonna make it better, but the little like times where the community gets to come together, and like, because you know the hardcore fans are getting it regardless. So like you're rubbing shoulders with the hardcore guys. And you know,
I guess
you get to have, and it's kind of like a special experience in and of itself. And so that's another thing. Like if you don't value that aspect, then you really are at a complete net loss buying the games at launch. There are a lot of people in comments or anything, and they're like, "I'm waiting until the DLC drops." And you know what? I do not fault you. You will get a better deal. Let me tell you exactly what's going to happen, because they do this every time. When the DLC drops, they're going to sell the base game and the DLC in a package for $60. No, probably $70 because games have upped in price. But they're going to sell it in a package the equivalent of buying retail with the DLC. They did this for World. They did this for Rise. And the deal was really, really fucking good. Capcom's always really savvy about these sales because they know it's just free money. It's like printing money for them. Guys, if you don't want to deal with a mediocre product, I mean, you're still going to get kind of a mediocre DLC. The DLC will always be mediocre compared to what it will be by the end of its year cycle, just like the base game. But what were you going to say, Zin?
No, it's just like you get a mediocre DLC, but you get extremely polished version of the base game, which already gives you so much content.
True, yeah, you get everything in the base game, but the problem is you get it with the catch-22 of any DLC changes that happen are going to reflect on the base game now too.
Yes.
So you're kind of fucked in almost every way. And the funnier thing is Capcom also wants you to get to the DLC as fast as possible, which is why they started adding in things like Defender weapons and Guardian armor and Black Belt armor, like all this shit to just speed run you through the game.
I think they should stop doing that. Like it's not that complicated for anybody to go through the base game of any version.
Well,
and
the thing is that they want the players to be. They want the players to be interacting with the content that they're currently making, because that's also where they're going to be funneling more money into, like where their marketing's going. And also the experience of, you're not going to be able to SOS quest as often because people are playing the DLC, so we're going to give you overpowered gear so that you can go through. Yeah. And so it's very, very much so, like literally, guys, Capcom's not your friend. You're making a deal with the devil when you buy these games. They can be damn good games, but you gotta understand you're paying a price for it, and you are funding some scummy tactics. I think you're funding some scummy tactics. And you can be mad at Wilds. That's fair. But do not put World on a pedestal. Do not put Rise on a pedestal. They did the same thing. They're going to do the same thing to Wilds. You really want to...
They basically offered you the same deal.
Yeah, you really want to make a change. Like, you really want to have, like, valid... Because here's the thing. Whenever you praise one of these other games over Wilds, you're proving Capcom right. That they can just brush over the shortcomings of the launches or the base games. That they can just sweep it under the rug, and they're going to make a whole shit ton of money off of sales for the next sucker during the next game cycle. And we've proven that with World. We've proven that with Rise. You know, like how many people were coming to Rise with Wilds and they were like, oh, I was too harsh. I'm playing Rise now. I'm loving it. It's like, yeah, of course you're fucking loving it. It's completed. And it has Sunbreak. Of course. It's going to be the same thing for Wilds. Wilds is getting the stepson treatment right now, the same way Rise did, but it's gonna be it's gonna be, oh my precious baby, I was so harsh on you when the next game comes out. Guys, you gotta understand, be realistic. Basically what I'm saying is those old gen bastards that were mad about Capcom corrupting Monster Hunter, they were fucking right. I'm just kidding.
For once.
I'm just kidding. But they are kind of onto something. Old gen Monster Hunter was a lot less predatory than new gen. It was a lot less predatory.
Well, I think it comes also from a time where these things were not normalized. Every company and their dog now is trying to get their hands on these type of business deals or like models, sorry.
That is true. The most aggressive monetization like market really started happening around Fortnite era, which was like 2014. 4 was like 2014, I think. It was like somewhere around that time. Yeah.
Everything is EA's fault.
Yeah, EA, the fucking Epic, Activision. Fuck you guys. Ubisoft too. And you can tell who Capcom idolizes with their story structure and everything, like all the bullshit. We see who you're idolizing, Capcom. You're not slick.
So I guess I can ask you the same question. Like this is for the viewers as well. Like it's a question for you, but it's for the viewers as well. And you can give me your version of the answer. And I asked this in a recent video that I made about this whole topic. Not the whole topic, but it's related. Are you okay with the idea that you're giving a slightly unfinished product so that the company that develops these games that you love can grow and increase profits under the premise that they will then retribute the consumer by improving the experience of said game and other services?
Well, I kind of touched on it a little bit ago, and I was like, we got to be honest with ourselves. That whole, I'm shaking hands with the devil, buying these products at launch.
It's just to synthesize like that answer.
I don't feel good having to do it. I don't think anybody feels good having to do it, but it is a business transaction. You know,
Yeah. And it's the deal that you get.
yeah,
It's
it's
not like you have
the
other
deal I
options.
agreed on. It's a transaction. It's purely transactional. I don't expect anything from these devs, and they expect nothing from me except for my money. You know, maybe some feedback occasionally. I don't know, in like a survey. But that's also to maximize profits. You know, at the end of the day, the gaming industry is about maximizing profits. There are some like indie darlings out there that are absolutely cooking it up. Expedition 33, oh my god, bro. Oh, it reminds me of why I love video games again. But there's only so many times we're gonna get an indie darling, you know, to come out here and really stand the test of time and provide us with a good quality experience for a reasonable price. And it's the gaming industry's hard right now. And I know we've been sitting here and kind of bashing Capcom a little bit, and I'm literally calling them the devil. But in comparison to Activision and in comparison to EA, you know, in comparison to so many of these different games, I'm not going to make outright accusations because I don't want any legal teams on my ass. But let's say theoretically in Minecraft, there might be some corporations that sell games and aggressively monetize packs and loot box style shit to maximize profits on full price games. Make shitty products that just aren't very good for full price, and they don't really care about making them any good because, and they're not gonna make them better over time either. You know, they just come out bad. You know, there's just so much that could be worse.
Yeah.
And right now it's kind of like we're in the chaotic neutral Capcom area where, yeah, we understand that they're trying to maximize profits.
That's such a good way to put it, actually.
The chaotic
I feel like
neutral.
Capcom. Yeah, because Capcom, what they are seeing is everybody, like quote unquote, everybody's cheating. Everybody. And you're the one that's sitting there trying to make things like by the book, like to be like right or to be, I guess, more like lawful good.
Yeah.
If you can put it that way. And you see how much money you lose, not lose, but not earn by being lawful good, right? And you see that and it's like, god damn, man, like I should probably try to get my hands on those like business models that are a bit dishonest, but they can make so much money. So it's like this conflict between seeing that and wanting to do something like that, but without losing the goodwill of the consumer. I actually think that's how they feel, probably.
Yeah.
Even though it's a very like, Capcom is just like any corporation, probably. But I want to believe that's kind of like, it's not an easy situation to be in as a business. And that's why they are like leaning into these things. It's not that they want to screw us over, but there are things that they still have to somehow tackle and address to make the profits that they need, I guess.
To pad their pockets, no doubt. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
the thing is, they're outright using tactics that are going to maximize as much money as possible in strategic ways, and they're going to continue to do so. But it seems like the Monster Hunter developer team gets a little more leeway to do cool shit than other companies that aggressively monetize shit do. So,
Oh, for sure, yeah.
you know, we can take our wins, we can take our losses. You know, I'm gonna say it like I said in a video prior, that if it comes down to it and Capcom completely dives down and becomes one of those hated, terrible, memed on companies, it's our responsibility to put them down. If Monster Hunter goes too far, we got to skip out on the next one. And if you don't, it's never gonna get better. It never will.
I agree. I completely agree. Like, voting with your wallet has never been more real and more important.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter how fat they make the asses of any crossover skins, okay, guys? It doesn't matter how fat they make the asses, okay?
No.
We can't just fold and buy that and the games if the games are going to be bad, okay? I'm I'm not saying don't buy the cami skin. Go buy it, but you know,
buy it once the game is good.
Yeah, I'm talking about the next go around. If you've already bought Wilds at this point, it's too fucking late. You funded Capcom already. What's another $6 to your 70? You know, you're probably gonna buy the DLC too. So what's another $6 to the 70 plus the 40, possibly 50? You know, now that games have been upped. You know, so guys, remember, Monster Hunter has been mid. It's trash. Go play DOS. Bye, guys. Stay media, my friends. Zune, you got any closing statements?
I appreciate the opportunity to be here. It was really fun to talk about this, and just in general, these yapping sessions are amazing to me. Are really fun.
Hell yeah!
So thank you very much, and thank you everybody for listening to Meatman. He makes great content. I think in general, everything that he tries to do is very refreshing to the community, especially because things are usually a bit more raw and not like sugar coated most of the time, which is it's just refreshing and great.
You're buttering me up.
We're
gonna cuddle. We're gonna cuddle after we're done recording, guys. We're gonna cuddle.
So yeah, just very grateful for the opportunity.
You ignored me.
That's all. That's for later. It's for later.
He's flustered right now. I'm not gonna edit this out, by the way.
All right. So yeah, thank you very much, Meatman. It was great.
Hey man, it was great. You're a great dude, great YouTuber. Good to have you on, man. Thank you for showing up. Stay meaty, my friend. Stay meaty, Zune. You guys, make sure you send me a virtual hug because your boy has been busy as fuck. I'm gonna try to make some more videos at a quicker pace. Hell, might even do some Night Rain content. Who knows? If you guys are down for that, let me know in the comments. But catch you guys later. Bye bye.
I've got dinner ready. Let him